Hello.
Apologies for that very short break. AM News continues. The Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, has charged the newly inaugurated Board of Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria to align with the ministry's reform agenda and avoid conflict with the management of the agency. Speaking at the inauguration ceremony in Abuja, the minister stated that the board must act strictly in its oversight and policy formation role. Our correspondent, Queen Agaba, reports.
Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, told the newly inaugurated board members that the aviation sector is Nigeria's gateway to the world and demands a high level of professionalism and discipline. He urged them to avoid meddling in operational matters, especially revenue departments, which have now been excluded from board supervision.
The journey of the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria began with the enactment of the Federal Airport Authority Act in 1996, which established FAN as a pivotal body responsible for the monitoring and provision of airport services in Nigeria. The Act outlines not only FAN's responsibilities, but also the framework within which it operates, delineating our commitment to providing a world-class aviation infrastructure and ensuring that our airports meet international safety and operational standards.
Chairman of the board, Dr. Umar Abdullahi Ganduje, in his remarks, thanked President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for the opportunity to serve and pledged to work harmoniously with both the minister and the FAN management team. He emphasized that Nigerian airports must reflect the image of a modern and investor-friendly country.
We would like to appreciate this important occasion, and we have to thank the Honorable Minister for providing an enabling environment for this historic occasion. Honorable Minister, we assure you, as a board, we are facilitators. As a board, we assist you to move this ministry to the next level.
Managing Director of FAN, Olubumi Kuku, assured the board of full cooperation from management. She says the agency is already pursuing several reforms aimed at enhancing passenger experience, strengthening infrastructure, and improving safety standards.
That the Federal Airport Authority will focus on institutional governance. We would work very closely with the board and the ministry to drive the strategic agenda.
The inauguration marks a renewed push by the ministry to sanitize and reposition Nigeria's aviation sector. The new board is expected to play a crucial role in ensuring that policy decisions translate into efficient, world-class airport operations nationwide. For Global Television, Queen Agaba reporting.
The federal government has expressed concern over the recent decision by the United States to impose tighter visa restrictions on Nigerian citizens. In a statement by the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Kenebi Emefa, the federal government said It viewed the new policy with concern and keen interest, particularly in light of the historically cordial relationships between both nations. The government described the move as disproportionate, calling for a reconsideration in the spirit of mutual respect and cooperation. Over now to Vice President Kashim Shettima has raised the alarm over the devastating impact of malnutrition on Nigerian children, revealing that nearly 40% of those under the age of 5 suffer from physical and cognitive impairment as a result. Speaking at the National Summit on Nutrition and Food Security, the Vice President, represented by Senator Ibrahim Hadejia, announced a new government-led initiative aimed at tackling the crisis. Correspondent Anete Patrick has more.
At a high-level summit organized by the House of Representatives Committee on Nutrition and Food Security, Vice President Kashim Shettima sounded a warning about the growing nutrition crisis in Nigeria. Represented by the Deputy Chief of Staff to the President, Senator Ibrahim Hadejia, the Vice President revealed that malnutrition is robbing 40% of Nigerian children under 5 of their future, both physically and mentally. To tackle the issue head-on, he unveiled the Nutrition 774 initiative, a grassroots-focused framework designed to deliver nutrition solutions directly to Nigerians' 774 local government areas.
Yet we must admit that the occasion that brings us here today is not celebration. It is a reminder of the burden that we bear, a malnutrition crisis that continues to rob nearly 40% of Nigerian children under 5 of their physical and cognitive potential.
While acknowledging ongoing support from partners like the World Bank, UNICEF, and Nutrition International, the Vice President emphasized the need for unified national efforts under one framework that promotes transparency and shared responsibility. Speaker of the House, Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, warned of the heavy cost of inaction and revealed that Nigeria loses an estimated $56 billion annually, 12.2% of its gross national income, malnutrition. He also highlighted the burden of multiple levies on food transporters, which drives up food prices and worsen insecurity.
Malnutrition stands out as a human tragedy and a development challenge. Millions of our brothers and sisters, especially children and women, suffer the consequences of poor nutrition. This summit must therefore galvanize us to forge sustainable, evidence-based solutions.
Chairman of the House Committee on Nutrition and Food Security, Honorable Chike Okafor, stressed the urgent need for better oversight. He proposed regular training for lawmakers and tighter controls on both local and international nutrition funds.
Beyond the health effects of malnutrition and lack of food, which includes stunting, low birth weight, anemia in children, adolescent girls, and women, there is considerable cost economically.
The committee is also engaging stakeholders nationwide and supporting the rollout of the new Nigerian Tax Administration Act 2025, which is expected to improve revenue flow and boost nutrition funding. Annie Xie, Patrick, Global Television News.
The Senate has expressed strong disapproval over what it described as prolonged marginalization recruitment practices of the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration Control, NAFDAC, spanning more than 2 decades. During the investigative hearing on recruitment disparities in federal government agencies, the Senate Committee on Federal Character and Intergovernmental Affairs, chaired by Senator Orwell Onyeso, hosted officials from both NAFDAC and the Transmission Company of Nigeria. Over now to Topsy Gimba's report.
The chairman, Senate Committee on Federal Character and Intergovernmental Affairs, chaired by Senator Orwell Onyeso, described the unequal regional representation within NAFDAC's workforce, accusing unnamed powerful individuals of manipulating the recruitment process. He insisted that such imbalances could not be justified in a diverse country like Nigeria.
Those areas. And if you follow the history of other ones we've looked at, you will see that for everywhere you have excessive employment, somebody strong comes from there.
Also speaking, the Senate Minority Whip, Senator Osita Ugo Enugu West, linked the mass relocation of Nigerian medical doctors and other health professionals abroad to unemployment and persistent recruitment and bias in federal agencies.
Unemployment is one of the biggest problems in Nigeria today. How can we say we don't have doctors and pharmacists when they are running out of the country? Some can't run because they don't have the means. And some are trying to run because they don't have the job. So if we are open and transparent, we will see these people.
In her response, the Director General of the NAFDAC, Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, acknowledged the concerns raised by clarified the agency had not conducted any recent recruitment. She attributed the existing imbalance to past recruitment exercises and emphasized that addressing the issue will require time.
Also affects us in NAFDAC is the fact that we are a scientific organization. Except for HRM and accounts, we are a scientific organization. Medical doctors, lawyers, veterinarians, pharmacists, and all areas of science.
The committee pledged to continue its oversight functions to ensure transparency, fairness, and equity in public sector recruitment as part of efforts to promote national unity and inclusiveness. Topsy Gimba, reporting for Global Television News.
In another development, the Senate says it is set to begin probe of Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, Farouk Ahmed, as the protest of public interest lawyers to the National Assembly enters today. The lawyers stormed the National Assembly, calling on the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, to immediately suspend and persecute Farouk Ahmed. In the petition signed by Samuel Nheseheng and 3 others, they also demanded that the National Assembly commence an immediate investigation recommending Ahmed's immediate sack and suspension. The Federal High Court in Abuja has fixed July 18th for ruling on a motion seeking to restrain the National Assembly from approving budget or appointments of Rivers government under the current sole administrator. Justice James Omotosho fixed the date after counsel for the applicants Ambrose Oworu and the defense lawyer Muhammad Galadima presented their arguments for and against the motion for interlocutory injunction. Retired Vice Admiral Ibok Etik Ibas was appointed as Rivers sole administrator by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu following the 6-month suspension of Governor Siminalayi Fubara. Leaders of major opposition parties in Benue State have aligned with the National Coalition through the launch of the African Democratic Congress ADC in the state. This was accompanied by the inauguration of a 7-member Portem leadership to oversee party registration at the ward and local government levels, pending the release of official guidelines from the National Secretariat. Benue State correspondent Felicity Indere tells us more.
The unveiling of the Benue State chapter of the African Democratic Congress ADC, held in Makudi, brought together a notable array of political heavyweights, signaling a united opposition front ahead of the 2027 general elections. Prominent attendees included former Governor Gabriel Soswam, House of Representative member Yowesi Hembe, and political activist Ihoto Ogbaji, among others. While addressing party loyalists, the pro-tem chairman of the ADC in Benue, Tengu Tegba, urged coalition members to rally behind the leadership in establishing a solid party structure across the state.
Officially resigned our membership of the People's Democratic Party and has declared for African Democratic Congress ADC. Anybody of the legacy parties who want to be a member of the ADC is welcome into the ADC, including the governor. If he wants to join the ADC, we will welcome him, provided he satisfies the requirement of the party.
The interim national chairman of the party, Senator David Mark, represented at the event by Senator Gabriel Soswam, called on party members to own the party and elect their leadership the way they desire.
This party is a party for the people. It's not owned by anyone individual. It's not the owner of ADC, the members is not the owner of any one of us in the as leaders. So the party is for the people, it's not for one person. So we want the people to own the party.
And we have thousands of members of PDP from all the nooks and crannies of this state that have moved into this party for one purpose only, and that purpose is to rescue Nigeria.
Coalition leaders asserted that an ADC-led government would present a viable alternative to what they termed the current administration's shortcomings in security, economic management, and national cohesion. In Makudi, Felicity Ndere, reporting for Global TV News.
The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, says it has deployed mobile intensive care unit ambulances to its operational offices in Kaduna, Owerri, and Uyo to boost emergency response and save lives during the predicted flood season. In a statement released in Abuja by the agency's press unit, the Director General, Zubada Umar, approved the deployment following an assessment that revealed critical equipment gaps in some of the field offices, noting that the decision aligned with its ongoing effort to optimize resource allocation and improve disaster response capabilities at the sub-national level. Umar noted that the deployment was a strategic step towards strengthening the operational capacity of the agency's zonal directorate and operation offices. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, says it will open its portal for online continuous voter registration in Akwa Ibom State on August 18, 2025, ahead of the 2027 general elections. The resident electoral commission in the state, Oba Ofanga, made this known during his maiden media briefing at the commission state headquarters in Uyo. Ofanga stated that in the next couple of weeks, the commission will start again the process of continuous voters registration starting on the 18th of August. We will have the opportunity for people to do the online pre-registration of processes. Now, in a related development, the Anambra State government has called on residents to participate fully in the ongoing continuous voter registration exercise, which kicked off across the state on July 8th. The State Commissioner for Information, Law Mefo, who made the call, said it is part of effort to strengthen democracy and ensure inclusive participation in the government election coming up in the state on November 8, 2025. The Independent National Electoral Commission says the continuous voter registration exercise will end on July 17th, noting that it has provided an opportunity for eligible voters to obtain their permanent voters card to participate in the forthcoming governorship election in the state. You are watching the live broadcast of AM News. When AM News returns, International Monetary Fund flags cross-border crypto risk for Nigeria as global markets surge 1,511% in 5 years. Details coming shortly, plus foreign and sports stories on the other side of this break. Please stay with us. You're welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, this is AM News on Global Television. Thank you for staying with us. In business now, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, has raised the red flag over Nigeria's growing use of crypto assets of cross-border transactions, citing substantial risk to capital flow management, monetary stability, and regulatory effectiveness, especially in emerging markets. The warning comes amid a staggering rise in global crypto market, which ballooned from $211 billion in January 2020 to $3.4 trillion by December 2024. And 1,511% surge over 5 years. Dangote Petroleum Refinery has slashed the depot price of premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol, to 820 naira per litre from 838 naira per litre as competition heightens in Nigeria's domestic market. The adjustment was also due to the drop in crude oil prices to $70 per barrel from more than $77 per barrel in June 2025. However, other operators also adjusted their depot prices at different rates in order to be competitive under the current circumstances. Nigeria and 3 other West African cocoa-producing countries are likely to see a fresh 10% output decline in the upcoming 2025-26 season, despite marginally improved weather conditions. Production has reportedly faced 2 successive below-average harvests before the latest projection. Ivory Coast and Ghana, and the world's 2 leading producers, along with Nigeria and Cameroon, account for over 2/3 of global cocoa output as they struggle with shifting weather patterns, aging tree stocks, disease, and destructive small-scale gold mining. On our foreign belt now, the British High Commissioner in Abuja has announced a change to the United Kingdom's immigration process for Nigerians applying for study and work visas. In a statement from the Commission revealed that starting from 15th July 2025, most applicants in these categories will begin receiving digital e-visas instead of the traditional visa stickers in their passports. The new policy will only apply to applications submitted on or before 15 July 2025. Those who submit their applications before this date will still follow the existing procedure, which includes submitting their passport at a visa application center and receiving a vignette. The Enclave Health Ministry in Gaza says at least 105 Palestinians, including 7 aid seekers, have been killed and 530 injured in Israel attacks across Gaza in the past 24 hours. United States President Donald Trump and Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has met for the second time in 24 hours about a ceasefire in Gaza, but there appears to be no breakthrough. The United Nations has warned that the fuel crisis in Gaza due to Israel blockade has reached a critical point and will cause further deaths and suffering in the besieged Palestinian territory. Still on foreign stories now, the U.S. Department of State has limited non-immigrant and non-diplomatic visas issued to citizens of Nigeria to a single entry with a 3-month validity period. In a statement, the United States mission in Nigeria said the move aligns with Donald Trump administration's reciprocal non-immigrant visa policy impacting several countries, including Nigeria. The mission encouraged Nigerian travelers to respect and adhere to terms of their visas and ensure travel documents are authentic, accurate, and up-to-date to date. In another development, the United Arab Emirates, UAE, has imposed stricter visa conditions on Nigerian travelers, including a ban on transit visa applications. The new policy comes less than a year after both countries resolved a protracted visa dispute. Under the reverse guidelines, Nigerian nationals aged 18 to 45 years are barred from applying for tourist visas unless accompanied. In sports now, head coach of Brazil national team Carlo Ancelotti has been sentenced to 1 year in prison for tax fraud. Ancelotti was found guilty of tax fraud dating back to 2014, where he was in charge of the Real Madrid. The Italian was accused of concealing income related to his image rights. Ahmed Musa will continue playing for Nigerian Premier Football League club Kano Pillars despite his current status as general manager of the club. Musa was appointed general manager of the 4-time Nigerian Premier Football League champions last weekend. The former Leicester City player has officially assumed the role. La Liga has rejected Real Madrid's request to postpone their first match against Osasuna in the upcoming new 2025-26 season, according to Correo Deportivo. Madrid had officially requested a postponement of their first La Liga game of the new 2025-26 season. The Los Blancos, Osasuna, and the Royal Spanish Football Federation have all agreed to set the match on October 29th. And here we end Global TV AM News. But before we go, let's take a quick look at our top stories again. On Global TV AM News, brought to you that the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, has charged the newly inaugurated board of the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria to align with the ministry's reform agenda and avoid conflict with the management of the agency. In business now, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, has raised red flags over Nigeria's growing use of crypto assets for cross-border transactions, citing substantial risks to capital flow management, monetary stability, and regulatory effectiveness, especially emerging markets. And on the foreign news, the Enclave's Health Ministry in Gaza says at least 150 Palestinians, including 7 aid workers, have been killed and 530 injured in Israel attack across Gaza in the past 24 hours. And finally, in sports, head coach of Brazil national team Carlo Ancelotti has been sentenced to 1 year in prison for tax fraud. And that's it on Global TV AM News. A quick reminder that Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms now showing on your screen by using @Global TV NG. I am Jumai Manson. Thank you for watching. Up next is Global Morning. Stay tuned.
is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Good morning, everyone. As always, it's a delight to have you join us here on Global Morning. I'm Uyi Agmofwegbe. Just to also mention that it's never a solo work on the show.
I like the fact that you mentioned it's never a solo work on the show. I am Jemai Manson, and it's great to be here. Good morning to each and every one of you. It's a beautiful Thursday morning, isn't it?
Of course it is. If we're doing radio at this point, I think it would be appropriate to say let's do Throwback Thursday. Exactly. But then I don't know what Jemai's favorite music is, so we don't know what to play for her next.
Whitney Houston, of course. Anytime, anything.
Yeah. I think we share that, really.
Whitney Houston, she's one of my all-time favorites.
Right.
You know how it is. You know how life can get with some of these amazing celebs who get caught up in that web of distractions, drugs, substance, and all of that. But she's my all-time favorite, really. I love all her songs. I know everything. There's one, I know all her songs.
You know, you're talking about her now. I mean, blessed memory. It just sparks some sort of nostalgia in my head about her movie, The Bodyguard.
Oh, amazing movie.
Right.
The Bodyguard, amazing movie.
You remember Tony from the movie, right?
I remember Tony from the movie. And you know, the thing is, and you just wonder, what are individuals, what sort of music do we listen to now?
Right.
If we fast forward now to 2025 and you ask someone, some of our children do not even know who Whitney Houston is. And those were songs that made a lot of sense. Songs, throwback songs back in the day, they made a lot of meaning. You could actually relate to life, circumstance, issues at hand. But now you just hear a lot of things. You see a lot of displays of nudity. You see a lot of displays of cuss words. You see a lot of things that you just wonder, what is this? So that too, you cannot even compare when it comes to these worlds, like in the 70s, in the 80s, and compared to what you see. I think individuals now should learn and pick something from that to make a lot of sense. Not so. I feel there's so much noise you hear nowadays. Subtle, nice music that actually
the kind that sinks in, right?
The type that sinks in with whatever circumstance. You know, back in the day, the sort of music, if you're going through a heartbreak and you listen to music, it just suits you and you just want, okay, this is it. But now you just, not all though, but majority, you'll be surprised with what you hear, the noise that comes with it.
Right.
But all the same, I think it's just a mere balance. We're evolving, right?
Exactly, we're evolving, but exactly. And then there is that element of what do you call it, generational shift that's also happening. Like Jemai was just naming some of the songs, I mean, by Whitney Houston. Gen Zs will think maybe they were just serenades from maybe a century behind them. But quite frankly, music changes, or to use Jumai's word, evolves from one generation to another. But the point being made is that music in itself is message.
Yes.
All right, so if it lacks message, it's just a bunch of sounds. Really, it's not music. So it's got to have message. It's got to be something that resonates with someone's mood. And that's why when I was growing up as a young boy, people would say, I'm playing this song because of the mood I'm in, or the circumstances under which I found myself at this point in time, because there was just a song for every single mood. I mean, literally. But today, it's more of going commercial. So people are going to even lambast you for not going commercial. They tell you this kind of song you're doing, it's not going to go commercial. You will not blow with this kind of song. All right. So exactly. So the overriding idea or motivation is to blow. I mean, for the benefit of our viewers, to blow means actually for you to come to the limelight. Exactly. Make it big in terms of the material advantage and everything. So you're going to drive the big cars, live in the big houses. Even if you're just showing all of those on, I mean, your videos, not really like you have them in real life and all of that. But again, let's not forget where we're coming from. Music has got to have message. People must find consolation when they listen to songs. Yeah, of course, nobody says we can't play a song and dance to it, but there has to be that equilibrium between when we need to dance, when we need to be sober, and whatever other thing we need to find in between.
Very true. And I think the artists that are upcoming now should go back in time and you can pick something unique from other musicians who have stood the test of time and all of that. Like something like there was this song, Michael Jackson, the Heal the World. Then there was war, a lot of hunger, earthquakes and all of that, and you know all of that. Heal the World was a song that really sank in. But now someone can just get a hairbrush and just say hairbrush, oh hairbrush, and it just
after 2 minutes and 48 seconds you have a track.
You know, it makes me laugh all the time. My kids are like, okay, someone can just pick up anything, hairbrush, it could be a lamp. And you just get a song,
just put it on the loop
and just say like look at my hairbrush, and you just keep saying it consistently.
Get my piano on it.
And you are done. So that's what we get now. I don't think we people really need to go back to the drawing board when it comes to music. Music is like you said, it resonates with an individual, your feeling, what you feel, and how it elevates your spirit, mind. It doesn't matter what age you are. You could be advanced, you could be, you know, but when you hear that music that just hits home, there'll be a nod. Like it doesn't matter whether you like it or not, but there's just something that appeals to your mind.
That's right.
So we have to be very, very distinct when we come to issues of music. Very important. And at the same time, they say what you hear that's what makes you. So there's some songs you shouldn't even come close to. There's some songs that do not help you morally, doesn't justify your beliefs and all of that. And that is why I keep going back. I keep talking about children, because you'll be shocked the kind of songs little kids dance to now.
That's right.
And morally, I think it's wrong. It's not meant. And sometimes parents don't even listen to the wordings of a song to be, you know, to checkmate and be sure of what your kids are dancing to and listening to at the same time.
That's right.
We have to be very careful when it comes to issues.
And for us back at home in Nigeria, it's maybe understating it to say that we are immensely blessed with some of the best songs. I mean, evergreen songs all over the place. Look at late Oyeka Owedu. I mean, a lady who brought her entire life into music, and that much impact is seen till today. So the impact she made outlives her, apparently, all right? So question is, who is going to go back to the archives, look for some of those songs from the 70s, from the 80s into the 90s, and say, yes, this is evergreen, but can we not do a remake of it? All right? And that's why it's heartwarming, knowing that a young man like Davido would go back to someone like Bright Chimezie. I mean, a guy who comes from several decades ago.
Inspired by
I think we need to see more of such collaboration. All right, in such a way that there's a synergy. I mean, if you like, cross-generational handshake.
True. Very true. I like how you put it. I like how you put it. That's true. And it goes a long way.
It does.
Like when I heard Davido, when he spoke about that and he told Bright Chimezie, I was inspired by this your song. I'm trying to remember the song. I'm inspired by it. And I was like, really? And it made a lot of sense that you just wondered, but that's
that's generational cross-carpeting when it comes to that handshake. And I think we need to do more when it comes to that in order to, you know, bring that music. Nigerians are not doing badly when it comes to music, but there are just some that you just cannot listen to.
That's right.
You cannot.
And that's why, again, censorship is very important, especially for songs that go on public airwaves, radio, television, and of course, regulating the internet is a very humongous task. But let's start from somewhere. Then let's do the basics as well. Well, a lot to say about music. They say music is life, and if a song is good, you've got to play it twice.
That is it. That is it.
All right, we're going to talk about a lot on the program today, as is always the case here on Global Morning. For example, well, the U.S. president has continued to rail against several countries, including countries on the continent of Africa. Before now, for those of us who are a bit conversant with how visa issuance works, especially from the U.S. side, if Juma Manson is traveling to the U.S., basically for business, for visit, for vacation, she gets a 2-year multiple entry visa. Again, 2-year multiple entry visa. But just yesterday, we are beginning to learn that there has been a review of that policy by the United States Department of State, saying that, look, going forward, it's going to be a 3-month visa as against the previous 2 years, and it's going to be for a single entry, no longer for multiple entry. In other words, the same Juma Manson that used to get a 2-year validity visa could travel, well, 24 times within that year. I mean, that period can now only get 3 months, again, as against 2 years, and she can only travel on that visa once. All right, so that's a new policy direction, and of course, and you know how it works with the United States, that policy will be driven like at the snap of fingers.
Yes, it is.
All right, so that's one drawback right now. And
a big drawback.
Add to that the fact that the president is relentless about his tariffs and all of the moves around it and things like that.
Yes, he is.
On the other hand, the United Arab Emirates is also railing against Nigeria, you know, reviewing visa policies and all that. But Nigeria is responding, and we need to quickly establish that balance. Nigeria is also responding by saying that, look, these are countries that we've always had cordial,
bilateral,
mutually, exactly, rewarding relations with. So what went wrong?
What went wrong?
So that's where we are right now, and this conversation will take a while, not just for today, but for the days ahead, because we're going to have to bring experts here to also look at these issues from the Nigerian standpoint. Is it like there's something wrong with our own foreign policy framework? Is it like, as we say in pidgin parlance here, there's some sea finish that is happening? Because it will appear there's some, I mean, some countries are being taken for a ride, and sadly so it appears Nigeria is one of such countries.
You know, when I saw that, when I read, I really felt really bad. And really, in the Pidgin Palace, I think there is some kind of sea finish in it.
Right.
Because the thing is, I think we need to do more the way we carry ourselves. I think maybe, in my own mind, like someone will say, Juma, you're an overthinker. But the truth is it because we're indebted in some sort of way, or you feel
we're not
playing our cards right, or Nigerians, we just, when we go abroad, they know us as being fraudulent, you know, corruption and all of that. But you cannot tag the whole peg. You cannot just code it on one person doing wrong and you just tag it to a whole crate or something. But I think Nigerians, like you said, we're responding and we're saying it's too strict.
Right.
Please, the restrictions are too high. Are we the only ones when it comes to these sort of issues? But I think it should be looked into, and it should be a sort of balance, because it's not fair. Multiple visa, single visa, that's a whole lot. And it's 3 months. Are you kidding me? But at the same time, I think the needful should be done. And of course, you know, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, is relentless when it comes to issues like this. We're still going back and forth with the tariff issue. We're not done with that. But I think a lot of awareness needs to be done.
Right.
And I just want to put this in when it comes to individuals that want to quote and unquote jackpot. Now, this is something you have to take very seriously, because your documents need to be accurate, it needs to be authentic, and it needs to be up to date. So it's better you do it the right way than cutting corners, because I know a lot of people that have actually cut corners, and some, well, got away with it, but at the fast forward, they're having issues as we speak.
Maybe some years down the line.
Some years down the line. But it's just better you get the forms, fill it, and just pray and do whatever you want. Just do it the right way than cutting corners, because this is serious and this can be very detrimental and very implicating. So let's do the needful, let's do the right thing when it comes to paperwork. You know, Nigerians, we like the fast lane too much. Maybe that's why
this is happening to us now, but at the same time, please, let's do it the right. I just want to chip that in. Let's do things rightly and do the necessary paperwork. It's very important by yourself.
You see, what Juma is saying now may not look like it's very weighty, but you have no idea how weighty it is, really, because in the end, these are countries who are strictly guided by their own policies. All right, their policies are not subject to what you think in your house in Nigeria. Therefore, if you want to travel, of course, you are at liberty to do that, make that choice. However, the piece of advice now is ensure that all the moves you're making are legal, legitimate, and fully comply with all the requirements. They call them, checklists, right?
Exactly.
Just ensure that every box is checked, and then you're good to go. All right, we're going to take. You want to say something?
Yes, I wanted to say something, and you know, home here, we sometimes when we we're in the hands of the police, or we just feel we can wiggle our way out of it. Like Abana, I can just give the policeman that small change, and he'll let me go.
Or call someone who can call someone.
Or call someone who can call someone. With international country, it doesn't work that way. There is no amount of. Let me speak the Hausa now. There's no amount of Turanci you want to speak to them that they'll listen to you. They follow back. They are very strict when it comes to rules and regulations, and I think we need to learn that. So that was why, in that particular report, it says Nigerians you have to coordinate yourselves very well. It's very important, and I hope there will be a balance to all of this, and at the end there'll be a light at the end of the tunnel. Everything's going to be fine.
Quite frankly, just on the final note, the U.S. and Nigerian authorities have so much they're doing together, and it's been that way for several decades. As a matter of fact, whether it's trade, diplomatic ties, or what have you, I mean, a lot of exchange going on between both countries. Add to that the fact that Nigeria has some of the finest envoys or diplomats in the world. So we are confident that the best of policy makers with regards to foreign policy will sit with the U.S. People and have this conversation so that things can be ironed out as quickly as possible. All right, let's take a quick break, everyone. The papers are brimming with headlines this morning. I can tell you that for free. When we return, we'll walk you through all of those headlines one at a time.
All right, you are welcome back. It's Global Morning on Global Television. And funny enough, the engineer and the MCR and the cameraman, they're always cracking me up every morning, especially Sebastian, the cameraman. All right, let's just go into the newspaper review segment. And it's the Daily Times. We're starting with the Daily Times. And the stars above the nameplate, it says 2027, Atiku denies meeting not to step down for Southern candidate. And you can find that read on page 10. Now below the nameplate it says Ponzi, Senate tax FG to protect vulnerable citizens from financial predators. And that you will find on page 2. And it says Wike orders security crackdown on one chance syndicates. It's about time. And that you will find on page 4. Capital punishment awaits vandals of electricity infrastructure. And that is on page 2, about time too.
Ononuga alleged overthrow plot, reckless ADC cautions presidency. Still on page 2, Nigeria condemns U.S. visa policy shift, demands fairness in bilateral ties. And that is on page 8. And here it reads, Reps approved 774.77 billion as NIMASA 2025 revenue target. And that is on page 14. The Daily Times has a lot of headlines now. You have to go out and get yourself a copy. And just to chip in this, Wike orders security crackdown on One Chance Syndicate. I think that is a step in an amazing direction, because One Chance is now on the rise now in Abuja.
That's right.
At a point, you know, when there was, when the FCT minister took it upon himself, got individual security agents, people in local government, everyone should come out, put a bounty on this particular issue that was a menace in Abuja at that time. There was like a calmness when talking about the One Chance. It wasn't as high as how it is now. It's now. It's now so high now in Abuja that you're even scared. So advisably, it's better you board any vehicle from the park. I think it's safer than the ones that are on the road. For whatever it's worth. For whatever is worth, please take it upon yourself. For the sake of your life and your loved ones that love you so much, go to the park, the car park, and you can just board a vehicle to whatever destination. So this is a step in the right direction for me, and kudos to the FCT minister, Mr. Project. All right, now over to you, Mr. Uwe. All right,
let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper for you. We begin with the headlines that are just immediately below the nameplates. Top left has a picture of the executive chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Mr. Ola Olukoyede. The headline says EFCC decries mind-boggling fraud at NNPCL. Once unexplained wealth criminalized. The question is beyond this revelation by the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, what will be done by way of practical action regarding this issue? One here with a picture of the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu. The kicker is 2027. Don't underrate Tinubu. Ribadu warns opposition. UAE bans transit visas, imposes stricter entry rules for Nigeria. So Juma's next vacation to Dubai is not going to be so more like a walk in the park.
It will be, don't worry.
All right, so let's look at the star headline for you. 2 years later, that's your kicker. International travel restrictions sparks fresh row over absence of ambassadors. It's been 2 years and counting, and President Bola Tinubu has been called out over this issue as to why the federal government under his leadership still hasn't appointed ambassadors and other members of consular offices across the world for Nigeria. On the left corner of it, mutual funds rise by 105% to 5.9 trillion naira in the first half on higher demand yields. All right, but there it says H1, that's the first half of the year. JACBA, Canada raises minimum proof of funds to 17 million naira per immigrant. You can find it on page 2 of the Guardian newspaper this morning. Niger attack claims 13 as 20 bandits die in Kwara. Incidentally, these are 2 neighboring states in Nigeria. Again, 20 gunmen raid Aguata local council Q4. Quite a sad story there. Delegates will decide who gets ADC's presidential ticket, says Atiku's spokesperson. Incidentally, again, those will be all the headlines from The Guardian. Do well to read up details for yourself as we flip over to the Daily Trust.
All right, on the Daily Trust newspaper, below the nameplate, it reads, Tinubu did not make Buhari president. And that is from Boss Mustafa. And it says, UAE reviews visa process for Nigerians, bans transit application. And now over to, and that you will find on page 23 of the Daily Trust. And on page 21, it says, Plateau crisis, reps panel invites Mufwang Lalong to security conference. And the Star story reads, we uncovered mind-boggling corruption in oil sector. And that is from EFCC, and you can find that read on page 3 and 4 of the Daily Times. And beside all of that, it says strike, FCT moves third term extension for primary schools. And you will find that read on page 24. I'll defeat Matawale before 10 a.m. on election day. That's from the Zamfara governor. And you will find that very that read on page 12. And here on page 21, it says federal government resumes trial of terrorists. And below that, it says 13 killed as bandits attack Niger communities, 30 gunmen neutralized in Castina. And that is all on the Daily Trust. Go out and get yourself a copy. And Mr. Uyu will take us through the Punch newspaper.
All right. First off, we turn to the Star headline for you with a kick head. It says, diplomatic tensions. Federal government pushes back as United States, United Arab Emirates tighten visa rules. One rider with that headline. Ministry begins high-stakes negotiation as officials fault U.S. over reciprocity claim. And then we'll take it down a little bit for you. It says here, U.S. meeting, African leaders seek Trump's support to develop resources. Bottom left, IMF pledges support for Federal Inland Revenue Service on tax reforms. Local government poll, police restrict movement in Lagos, deploy squads. We understand all of that will happen on Saturday. That's in 2 days' time, been a while coming. Tinubu government seeking excuse to clamp down on coalition. That claim is attributed to the ADC, the platform on which the coalition members now say they want to run against President Tinubu in 2027. And not so many headlines on the front page of the Punch, but then a bit of sports for you now as we turn to Punch Sports Extra.
All right, now the Punch Sports Extra. Above that, it says Tunisia, Algeria clash North African affair. And that is on page 2. Napoleon testifies Luke been chased, and that read you will find on page 6. And it says here, Inadoze backs debutants to shine, and that is on page 2 also. And it says Gala to pay Osimhen 14 million euro, and that is on page 6. Now below that it says Goalscray's Arsenal transfer in danger. That's page 4. Below that on page 4, Rashford OK's Fennis Blank move. And it says Botswana versus Nigeria, and the venue there, just go out and get yourself this particular paper. Ancelotti sentenced for tax fraud. Blue demand 55 million euro for Madueke. And it says Falcons target early quarter-final ticket against Mars. Botswana seeks to revive campaign. And here below that it says on the Punch Sports, it says Nathaniel's record season earns Burman final spot. Eagles 8B players admit pressure for Chan Sports, and that is on page 6 of the Punch Sports Extra. Please go out and get yourself a copy, and we're well abreast with some sporty stories. Next, The Nation.
All right, let's go to The Nation for you real quick now. Several headlines there, but we'll begin with the one above the nameplate of The Nation newspaper this morning. Says International Council of Beverages Associations tackles World Health Organization on SSB tax. Beneath the nameplate top left corner, Nigeria's tax reform gets IMF's backing. The writer says FIRS good to run it. Counter nullifies. Let me see what that says really. Okay, says court nullifies conversion of Nikon's 130.7 million pounds by Union Bank. And you see a picture of Jimoh Ibrahim there, a senator from Ondo State. What's more, AFCC seeks law to criminalize unexplained wealth. This will be quite a very tough task, but it is worth all the investments in it. Star headline tells us aviation experts knock splash of cash by states on On viable airports, Enugu is the latest on that list, by the way. Enugu now has its own official airline, which has also been commissioned by Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo SAN. But there are two riders to the headline. The first one reads 369.4 billion naira spent by 19 subnationals. FAN MD, only 3 airports profitable. So question is, what's happening with the other 16 airports? I mean, your answer or thoughts are as good as mine. Federal government opens talks with U.S. over visa restriction. That's a very smart move. The earlier the better. Let's know where we are.
Exactly.
All right. Tinubu's reforms building on Buhari's legacy. That legacy, as it is here, is a bit now of a debate. But Boss Mustafa, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation under immediate past President Muhammadu Buhari, has spoken up about some of these issues. You can read up those details for yourself when you pick up a copy of the Nation newspaper today. All of that awaits you on page 2. All right. On the foot of the paper, Senate House minority leaders gang up against president, not option now. You can also look it up on page 5 of the Nation newspaper, taking us next to the Nigerian News Direct.
All right, the Nigerian News Direct, above the nameplate, it says CAF partners NSITF to straighten employee compensation scheme. And that you will find on page 5. Nigeria's economy steadily improving under Tinubu, and that's the that's Idris. And it says, as Editor's Summit report on law reforms, and that you will find on page 3. Now below the nameplate, at 9th OPEC seminar, FG calls for investments to boost production, energy security. And the writer says, as Lapoberi laments unfair financing structure for African countries. And it says, Lagos launches 20-year master plan to tackle traffic crisis. Federal FG secures Deutsche Bank backed $747 million loan for Coastal Highway. And below that it says, again, UAE slams tougher visa conditions on Nigerians. And the writer says, as FG demands reversal of new U.S. visa rule. And that's all on the headlines making rounds on the Nigerian News Direct. Go out and get yourself a copy. And the next is This Day.
All right, This Day coming your way this day. Well, the star headline is where we start from this morning. Somewhat of a bit controversial headline, but it is what it is now. Boss Mustafa, Buhari allowed institutions to work, prioritized structure over showmanship. Yes, that's on This Day newspaper. Has 3 riders with it. Says ex-president's constant 12 million votes breathed his presidency in 2015. Here it reads again, Tinubu, my predecessor, showed humility, restraint, maturity in exercise of presidential powers. Obaigbena, 40 years ago, I was the last journalist to interview Buhari just before IBB's coup. That's a very high-ranking media executive in this country here talking. Let's look at the one above the nameplate for you as well. Just before that, there's one again immediately beneath the nameplate. Visa reciprocity, federal government urges U.S. to reconsider single entry decision. We hope the U.S. government listens under President Trump. Above the name masts, Lukman, coalition will avoid past mistakes of Atiku Obi to defeat Tinubu in 2027. That sounds so definitive. Then we'll need to bring you the 3 riders accompanying that headline. Discloses whoever emerges presidential candidate will get massive support. Coalition won't stand on anybody's mandate. Tinubu planning clampdown on opposition leaders. Abdullahi raises the alarm. Coalition dead on arrival, declares ACF spokesman. All right, Nigerians are watching to see how all of this will pan out in the days, weeks, and months ahead as we grind gradually towards the 2027 general election. But let's take you to the Vanguard newspaper now, and Juma has all the headlines for us.
All right, now on the Vanguard newspaper, above the nameplate, it says FG secures $747 million loan for Lagos Calabar Highway. And that you will find on page 20 of the Vanguard. And below that, it says FG targeting food sufficiency through PPP. And that's from the Information Minister. And that you will find on page 9. No one single-handedly made Buhari president in 2015, says ex-SGF boss Mustafa, and that you will find on page 11. Construction of Eastern Rail Line corridor begins, and that is on page 13. Now the Star story reads 2027, don't underestimate Tinubu, Ribado warns opposition. And the writer there says ADC slams presidency over alleged plot to overthrow Tinubu, says it's poorly to repress opposition. And it says governors, APC leaders secretly supporting coalition. Babachir, ex-SGF, and LP can't win election. We will contest on ADC tickets. Kingibe, don't write us off yet. And PDP, it says it's not losing ground to ADC. And then it says governor renew push to delist Labour from exclusive list. Lagos LGPO, police restrict vehicular movement for 12 hours on Saturday. And that you will find on page 10. Immigration, Nigerian face growing visa hurdles in UK, US, Canada, UAE, others. And that you will find on page 8. And it says Senate probes Ponzi scheme in Nigeria, and that 30. And FIRS has made significant progress, and that's from the IMF. And you will find that read on page 20. 2 feared dead as gunmen attack Anambra community, and that you will find on page 13. So go out and get yourself a copy of the Vanguard. Next is Standard Times. Over to you, Uyi.
All right, let's see Standard Times for you. Top right above the nameplate says Dangote refinery to process 100% local crude by 2025 end. Ganduje assumes office as FAN board chairman. Global Television brought you that story yesterday. 5 shops ravished by early morning fire in Ibadan. Again, Ibadan. Quite sad for traders there and shop owners as well.
Very sad.
Tinubu will be removed by votes, not bullets. ADC replies presidency over overthrow comment. Politicians, they're doing their thing, but Nigerians are only interested in good governance.
That is all.
Tinubu didn't make Buhari president in 2015, says boss Mustafa. Then a bit down here says people underrate Tinubu at their own peril. Ribado warns opposition. Federal government demands proof of local content remittance from oil firms. Gunmen attack abduct passengers on Enugu-Port Harcourt Expressway. Then it says local government polls. Police announce restriction of movements in Lagos. We will ensure NEL Fund serve its intended purpose. EFCC boss Olu Koyede. Edo 2024, Supreme Court urged to prioritize justice over technicalities. Is that not meeting after death? Because we understand that verdict that had been reserved for a couple of days now will be delivered this morning here in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, at 9 a.m. So all eyes will be on the Supreme Court and how the verdict will go this morning and even beyond. Global Television will also track that development for you as always. All right, last headline here from the Standard Times. It says OT challenges managers to keep to export standards, commissions by Export Growth Lab. That's a story. That headline has its details on page 13 of the Standard Times. And then we'll go to the first news, which actually is not the first paper on the show this morning.
You're so cheeky. All right, the first news, and it reads, beside the nameplate of the first news, it says, corruption will win if you don't act. And that's from EFCC boss. He warns NAS. And below all of that, it reads,
No coup plot. ADC hits back at Tinubu's aide's alarmist claim. And Senate pushes death penalty for power vandals in new bill. And it says viral baby video, woman denies giving alcohol, claims scene was staged. All right, you have to be careful what you put up on social media, really. Why would you give a little child alcohol? What message are you trying to pass? Right. Even if it was staged, that's a child. That's a minor. Are you kidding me?
You went overboard.
You went overboard. So there's nothing you can tell us, because I know for sure there's some parents who actually give their children alcohol. But, you know, but it's just very sad what we see nowadays. Just for that viral video, and that for that the change that you get in that. Well,
you want to monetize.
You want to monetize. Now, Tinubu misunderstood Nigeria safer than before, Ribado claims. Okay, and the Star story on the first news says Katsina offensive: 30 bandits killed, 5 soldiers fall in Nigeria's unending war. And the writer says, Niger villages hit hard, 13 residents dead, many wounded in fresh carnage. And below that it says 1.3 trillion crypto scam. Senate launches probe into Ponzi schemes. And it's from Akpabio now. It says, many senators leave office broke, not richer. And here it says, Obi clarifies role during Abacha's era. And then basically that is it. And up next is a Daily Courier. And over to you, Uwe.
All right, let's see the Daily Courier for you. Here, first off, it says NIN enrollment surges by 20% to 120 million in June. Seems like some progress for us there. Senate passes Electricity Act Amendment Bill to avert collapse of power sector. The writer, first of two, says lawmakers push tougher penalties, state-level reforms as federal government's 4 trillion naira debt raises alarm. Seeks to criminalize infrastructure sabotage, protect consumers. Bottom right, let's see. NECO releases 2025 BECE results, sets dates for receipts examination. Federal government begins batch 7 trials of suspected terrorists. This is interesting. So they are in batches. FG secures $747 million infrastructure loan to advance Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway. PSG thrash Real Madrid 4-0 to reach Club World Cup final. And then we turn to the left side of the paper this morning. ADC raises alarm over alleged plot to clamp down on opposition. Meanwhile, the presidency is also laying claims of overthrow by the opposition. So it's some sort of accusation and counter-accusation moment we are in, but that won't stop us from going to the next paper, which is the Nigerian Tribune.
All right, now the Nigerian Tribune, and it says above the nameplate on page 4, and that's a picture of the Senate President, no other person than Akpabio there, and it says, Ponzi schemes, Senate faults weak regulatory role by CBN, SEC, others. And the writer says, probes loss of 1.3 trillion naira in CBEC crash, and that's a lot. And it reads, court slams €1 million damages against Union Bank over breach negligence, and that's on page 28. Awards 50 million naira damages in favor of Natcon Investment Limited. Union Bank heads to appeal court. Okay, let's see how far that goes. And below the nameplate it says, and that's the Star story, Buhari's popularity won 12.5 million votes from APC in 2015, and that's from the XGF boss Mustafa. And the writer read says, ACN, CPC, other merger parties brought 3 million votes. And Buhari administration stood on pillars of integrity, and that's from Tinubu. And below that it says UAE imposes fresh visa conditions on Nigerians, bans transit visa. You will find that read on page 16. 2027, ADC raises the alarm, alleged plots to clamp down on opposition leaders, and that's on page 3. Ex-APC National Chairman Ganduje appointed FAN Board Chairman, and that you will find on page 23. Big congratulations. And it says here 3 police officers, 2 soldiers die as security forces kill 30 bandits in Castina. And you find that read on page 10. And the writer says suspended bandits kill 13 in Niger community. And it says Nigerians oil rig count hits 46, and that's from NUPRC. And you will find that read on page 6. Oil government procures 2 aircraft to improve security, and you will find that read on page 10. ICPC recovers 21 billion naira from salary fraud in one investigation, and you will find that read on page 3. And the writer says false revenue declared by NNPCL. Fayemi Oye Banji won't leave our party for ADC, and that's from APC, and you will find that read on page 3. Let's flip over to the Vanguard.
All right, the Vanguard. Thank you, Jumai. Let's begin from above the nameplate. First off, it says here, federal government secures 747 million naira loan for a dollar loan, I should say, for Lagos Calabar Coastal Highway. Of course, we had always known this was going to be a capital-intensive project. Then again, top left corner of the paper, federal government targeting food sufficiency through PPP. All of these headlines are coming from the Vanguard newspaper. That's according to Information Minister. Federal government targeting food sufficiency through PPP. No one single-handedly made Buhari president in 2015, says ex-SGF boss Mustafa. Construction of Eastern Rail Line corridor begins. Good move. Star headline, 2027 is your kicker. Don't underestimate Tinubu, Ribadu warns opposition. One of the writers here, amongst 4, says ADC slams presidency over alleged plot to overthrow Tinubu, says it's a ploy to press or to repress opposition. Governors, APC leaders secretly supporting coalition. Baba Chair ex-SGF. Labour Party can't win election, will contest on ADC tickets, Kingi Bay. Don't write us off yet. PDP says it's not losing ground to ADC. Well, if you turn to the right side of the paper, front page still, governors renew push to delist Labour from exclusive list. Lagos LG polls, police restrict vehicular movement for 12 hours on Saturday for obvious reasons. Immigration, Nigerians face growing visa hurdles in UK, US, Canada, UAE, others. Senate probes Ponzi schemes in Nigeria. Of course, the CBEX scandal we hear has hit 1.3 trillion naira. In a country like ours, that's a whole lot of money.
That's a whole lot.
Right, to be swallowed by something called Ponzi scheme. But
very
again,
sad.
Let
very
the
sad.
probe begin. Federal Inland Revenue Service has made significant progress that is credited to the International Monetary Fund. 2 feared dead as gunmen attack Anambra community. Those are much of the headlines we have for you this morning. Let's turn to the Standard Times as we begin to wrap up now.
All right, now in the Standard Times newspaper, above the nameplate, it says Dangote Refinery to process 100% local crude oil by 2025 end. And on page 2, it says Ganduje assumes office as FAN board chairman. And here it says 5 shops ravaged by early morning fire in Ibadan. Very sad. And the Star Story there says Tinubu will be removed by votes, not bullets. ADC replies presidency over overthrow comment. Tinubu didn't make Buhari president in 2015, says boss Mustafa, and it says we will ensure NELFON serve its intended purpose. EFCC boss Olukayode. Gunmen attack abduct passengers on Enugu Port Harcourt Expressway, and you find that read on page 4. People underrate Tinubu at their own peril, Ribadu warns opposition. And federal government demands proof of local content remittance from oil firms. Police announced restrictions of movement in Lagos. Now Supreme Court urged to prioritize justice over technicalities.
And basically, that is all the headlines on the Daily Times. And of course, the newspaper review segment comes to an end. Please go out and get yourself a copy and be well abreast with the news making rounds. And stick around. Global Morning continues shortly. But before then, up next is Social Buzz with Ogochukwu Mobno. Stay tuned.
Good morning and welcome to Social Buzz on Global Morning. I am Ogochukwu Mobno. It's a good day to look at what's buzzing on the internet. Remember, the internet never goes out of stories. There's always one trending issue or the other. Well, a driver has stabbed former employer to death and now has been arrested while attempting to sell the car of his employer. Men of the Ogun State Police Command has arrested a murder suspect, Ayomide Oluwadamilare, linked to gruesome killing of one Mr. Kola Adun, a resident of River Valley Estate, Ojodi Bega, whose decomposing body was discovered in his home. A statement from the command spokesperson, CSP Omolola Odutwala, says on July 7, 2025, the Divisional Police Officer of Ojudu Abiodun Division received a distress call from Mubarak area in Akute. Reports emanating from a residence located on Ogunmoyero Street, Rivers Valley Estate. Odutola said that the officers went into the premises and found the lifeless body of Mr. Adun on the first floor bearing visible stab wounds. Bloodstains were discovered at the scene and his Toyota Camry with registration number Lagos AAA 193GC was missing. Suspicions was raised on Sunday morning, July 6, when a friend of the deceased went to pick him up from church service and discovered that the gate was locked from the outside, and he immediately calls to the victim went unanswered before the phone was switched off. He alerted the family and reported the matter at Ojudu Abiodun Police Station. Preliminary investigations indicated that his former driver Ayomide Oluwadamilare, 25 years old, unlawfully entered the residence on Saturday, July 5th, 2025, with the intent to rob. He stabbed Mr. Adun to death and fled with the deceased vehicle. Odutola mentioned that a breakthrough occurred when the suspect attempted to sell the stolen vehicle to a car dealer in Ejede, Ikorodu. The dealer, suspicious of the suspect, contacted the police, leading to the suspect's prompt arrest at the point of sale. The remains of the deceased have been evacuated to Olabisi Onabanjo University Teaching Hospital, OOUTH, Shagamu, for autopsy, while his case will be transferred to the State Criminal Investigation Department, SCID, Abeokuta, for discreet investigation. At this point, this is where we say things are really happening, because you have to kill your employer. This is someone who employed you. Okay, he is a former employer, and I'm sure, I don't think any issue is supposed to warrant you killing your employer. He actually went there with the intent of robbing his employer and ended up killing the employer, and also still robbed that employer by taking his car, fleeing away with the car, and trying to sell it off. Well, thank God for that car dealer who, you know, found out that this is a stolen car. I really want to appreciate every car dealer who actually asked for particulars and every license that, you know, the car is supposed to have before you start buying a car, because you could be part of the criminal case if you should buy stolen cars without investigating properly. Well, we're taking comments from social media as regards this story, and our first comment today is coming from Abolore Twin, and Abolore Twin says, God, what will a 25-year-old boy be looking for? At 25 years, I have graduated from school. My dad was the one still feeding me, and that does not mean I'm not doing good presently in life. All these young folks should be contented and do things at slow pace. What is the rush to make it in life all about? Well, everyone wants to make, you know, fast money, and nobody even cares about the making this money. Nobody wants to go the legit way anymore, because the legit way seems to be very far, very slow, and everybody wants to it so fast. But for a 25-year-old guy, come on, you still have a lot ahead of you, but right now you've actually cut your own life short by committing a gruesome murder. Well, the second case, the second comments, I beg your pardon, is coming from Official Teddy Wealth, and Official Teddy Wealth says, be careful of who you employ. The whole country is in chaos. How careful can one be at this point? Honestly, we really do not know the heart of men. If you get to start searching deeply into the heart of men, you find out that even the people who you think care about you do not really care about it like you think about it. They come out here, they smile at you, they are always around you, they pray for you sometimes, but then their heart is even bitter and even more dark towards you. So we have to just be, you cannot even be careful enough. Just like we say in the country, pray not to fall into the hands of employers or wrong employees. Well, the last but not the least comment today is coming from Sherry Coco. Coco says, if all dealers are like this, crime will reduce. Yes, Sherry Coco, I agree with you. If all dealers would be like this car dealer who actually immediately found out that this car was and therefore reported to, you know, the right authorities, of course crime will reduce in the country. We won't be hearing of stolen cars and never found that were never found. We understand that some of these people steal the cars, even dismantle the parts and sell it bit by bit. But then again, if only we can have good car dealers like this, definitely the crime of stolen cars would definitely be reduced, and other crimes too will be reduced. If you have to check the particulars of a car before buying it, make sure you go through due processes. Then definitely you won't be accomplice to any kind of crime, especially when it comes to theft of a car. I'm sure you've been following this story. And if you have not, please, I would like you to drop your comment on using the social media handles you're seeing right now on your screen on YouTube at Global TV NG, and be part of this conversation. We'd like to hear your thoughts concerning this story of a gruesome murder of an employer, you know, a 25-year-old boy who killed his own employer just because he wanted to steal a car. This Toyota is even like an old made of Toyota, but then this is what was his focus. This is what was his pride, to steal the car. It is really, really not a good thing. After stealing the car, what next? And now you've been arrested because you even have to kill someone, not just the car. So it's like two crimes, murder and theft. Well, like I said, drop your comments on the using the social media handles you're seeing right now and be part of the conversation. My name remains Ogochukwu Mobno, and I'll be leaving you in the hands of the Global Morning crew as Global Morning continues to stay with us and go nowhere.
I think it's only fair to say thank you, Ogorchukwu Mobuna, for taking our time to not only present these stories, but expand on them as well. The first one for me is very gruesome.
Yes,
it just shoots some sort of bumps on your skin, almost literally, because this is not first of such stories, but every other time you hear of this kind of incidents, it just makes you ask the question of, are we losing our humanity, or have we lost it altogether already?
Yeah, of course, it sends some shivers down my spine, and I was wondering, why would you want to kill your boss? Like, are you kidding me right now when it comes to this sort of issue? Are you like losing humanity? You know, a lot of people, it's the get-rich-quick syndrome, whatever way, it doesn't matter what, any way, anyhow it is. As long as I can get that money, as long as I can get that property that's not his and all of that. It's just unfortunate that this is what it is. And that is why when you're employing someone, a background check needs to be done. Right. And then you as an employee, there's a lot that you need to, as an employer, there's a lot you need to do when it comes to giving information to individuals where you are. Because it's not everyone that is sane. Even in the military, you'll be shocked that soldiers actually kill senior officers out of anger, out of the fact that he's giving. You saw what happened. There was a viral video that went wrong with the soldier that they were actually struggling his rifle with him. You know, if it wasn't properly handled, someone would have lost their lives. And you see, people just, and at the same time, people are not mentally stable when it comes to these issues. They just feel, but it's just unfortunate. But really, whether the employer or the employee, background checks need to be done. It's very, very important that you know individuals who are working for you to understand what it is. It's a vis-a-vis thing. Respect, they say, it's reciprocal, it's mutual. And you as an employee, you have a lot to give. It's just, let me deviate a bit. When a help, that's a house help now, begins to maltreat your children, it shows that maybe you as an individual have not treated that individual well. So she passes that aggression to your child naturally. So it only happens naturally that if you are an employer, the way you treat your employees matters a lot. Because sometimes if you're not good, if you are the kind of person that you talk down at them, you threaten them, you do all sorts, they might conspire against you and do a lot of things. But it's just unfortunate that this had to do with life now. But it's as gruesome as that, as life, setting the individual up and all of that. So it's a vis-a-vis. You need to be careful. As an employer, you need to be very careful. As much as you call the shots, you need to be very careful. And the employee, you need to be very, very careful also, so you won't lose your job in the process. And because like now, this person is going to jail, he's going to rot in jail. But at the same time, we need to be careful, please. It's very important. Because you hold the knife doesn't mean that you hold the life. So be careful. Very important, really.
I'd like to say thank you to you for even bringing up the angle of help. Right. You see, these are domestic issues, quite frankly. They are also family issues.
Yes, it is.
Now you bring somebody, a total stranger. This person is probably not a family friend. You've never known this person from anywhere. The person is probably not even from your part of the country. All right. And then in the end, you bring them into your house, your home, to look after your children. And for the most part, you're not home. So they have total custody. I mean, 100% custody.
Yes, very true.
And if there's anything that matters to you, is your child. Meanwhile, you do everything possible to undermine that employee, that's help, and then you trust them or entrust them with the life of your children. And then you're expecting that, despite the fact that you treat them very wrongly, you treat them in ways that are inhuman. So
yes, exactly.
They will now treat your children.
No, they will never.
It doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't.
So we need to realize that. Then secondly, for employers as well, for executives, for superiors, also let's understand that this is such that we must realize that you don't play God over people's lives.
No, right? You don't.
Juma said something about respect being reciprocal, all right? It has to be mutual. Respect doesn't mean you have to prostrate, so you have to lay on the ground to respect it. It just simply means that you first of all recognize that the person working for you is a human being. As much a human being as you are, nobody is more human being, as it were.
Very true.
We need to know that because, I mean, this conversation is very salient, given that there's a history to all these things. Of course, there's no reason to take another person's life. No. Unless, of course, as the law also provides for, in self-defense. Or where the law is very clear as to somebody who should be subjected to capital punishment. Otherwise, nobody has the right to take someone else's life.
Very
because
true.
Life is precious, life is sacrosanct,
Very
and you
true.
can't replace a life.
No, you cannot.
But you don't give it in the first place.
No, you don't.
But you see, we must understand that we do our parts. We've seen, for example, this is not common in this part of the world, but in the US, for example, in the western part of the world generally, we've seen where somebody resigns from a place, comes back after 4 years, and starts shooting at everybody. You're wondering, and then of course we say it's mental instability, it was momentary.
No, that's provocation.
That's the word. So
that's provocation.
The question is, what provoked that person? It may not have been something that happened just yesterday, dinner time. It could have been years before today. It could have been
accumulation of insults. It builds up,
kind of thing, and all
exactly.
That. So please, let's ensure that we safeguard ourselves and also do that by treating others right. It's about the natural law of do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Very true. You've just said it, and you've hit the nail on the head. So, employers, let's be very careful and tread softly. Tread softly, really. So I pray this will never, because it's a repeat of itself. You see issues of employees doing this sort of harm to their employer and all of that. It's really detrimental, and it's very, very sad. But at the same time, like I said, it's a versivice thing. Something must have triggered something, or maybe the person is not well. You know, you don't take care of your employees well, and you just the fastest way for me to get the money out is to kill this, eliminate this individual, and move on. And you see, God will always show forth, and that was why they were caught and all of that. But at the same time, let's tread softly. It's very important, really.
That's right.
It's very important.
Oh, it's okay that it's very important too that we take a break at this point. When we return, so much more to talk about. Of course, at the twilight of the show this morning, we'll be looking at the agricultural sector in Nigeria. What has changed the last few months, especially in the area of food sufficiency, or what some of those in government now refer to as food security. All of that and more coming shortly. Please don't go away. All right, we appreciate you for staying with us, everyone. In no distant time, we'll get talking about the agricultural sector. But before that, just to talk about something that happened some 5 days ago. Well, you may say it has been overtaken by events. Well, that's in some sense is correct. However, it's been a phenomenon we've lived with here for a long time. Well, if you look at data, it goes back into history. And today it has evolved, it has been systemized in some cases. In fact, on some level, institutions have been built around it. It's the International Day of Cooperatives. It's a day, July 5, set aside for it to commemorate it. As a matter of fact, it's a United Nations Day, so that shows you how significant.
Yes,
so it's not the day that Jumai or Uyi chose. It's a UN day, so
yes,
all over the world. All right, it's what is commemorated. In fact, some analysts, those in the field of microfinance, will tell you that the idea behind, or what you now today know as microfinance or microfinance institutions, are built largely on the cooperative system,
yes,
or what we call Osusu. Yes, in most parts of Nigeria. We know many other parts of Africa have their own word or terminology for it, but it's the same practice. That's what it is. Now, for starters, it could just be an idea of Jumai, Uyi, and a few other persons coming together, maybe 5 of them in all, to say, well, we want to be setting aside 10,000 every month or every week, as the case may be. So you have to determine that cycle. But it's usually on a monthly basis, especially for those who have to rely on salaries to be able to meet their obligation and all of that.
Very
so
true.
You decide to say you want to set 10,000 aside, 5 people in this cooperative, and then every other month there's a beneficiary. So you can decide to say, okay, let's do some sort of lot. Let's cast the lots and know who will be the first person, second, third, and all that. So you do all of that, and then there's a first beneficiary all the way down until it's cycled out, or cycles out with the last beneficiary. That way everybody knows when to take their turn, and then of course they understand how the whole system goes. So it has helped many communities, it has helped households, it has helped people to build financial discipline.
Yes, it has.
All right, because there are people who tell you, look, as you see me here, I can make a lot of money in a month, but I don't know how to save because my spending impulse is very strong.
Exactly.
So for such people, one of the checks they put on themselves is to say, okay, if I join Jumai and the other person over there to do this Osusu or cooperative, there's a pretty good chance I'll be disciplined to do some savings.
Exactly. And of course, you know, bringing that home to your place of work, it helps you to prepare, to plan, and to know that there's always a benefit attached to it. That at the end of it all, for individuals who have a high spend hormone, I would call that, you can know that at the end of the day, you have something out of your salary. At least you have this to say to yourself, okay, I've worked and I've gotten this and I can put it in something really big or something. People use that particular cooperative for a lot. Some have roofed their houses, some have started up a business, some have done a lot. It really goes a long way. It's very beneficial. And for people who come together, responsible people, not the ones that will take at the end of the day, and the next thing you know, they will tell you, they'll block their lines and all of that. But individuals who are very responsible, who can own up to responsibility, go into this particular cooperative, and it goes a long way. It's very beneficial. And even your organization can actually do it. Like you mentioned something that you can be in an organization and your salary, they tell you, okay, out of your salary, we're taking this amount from source. Then at the end of the year down the line, you know that you have this particular monies in your organization, and you can use it for something very beneficial for yourself and your family. It goes all. It just create that balance. Is part of the benefit that comes with cooperatives, and it really goes a long way.
It does. Incidentally, for this year, the UN picked a very, I should call it an apt theme. It is cooperatives driving inclusive and sustainable solutions for a better world. Well, there's so much you can say about this. Incidentally, this weekend, Global Television will be bringing you special reports in this regard, so you can have a broader perspective of what the dynamics are around cooperatives. We're taking another break here, everyone. When we return, we'll turn to the agri sector and see what exactly the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Tinubu has been in this regard. Do stay with us. Just about 2 years ago, President Bola Tinubu, a few weeks into assumption of office, had declared a state of emergency on the agri sector for obvious reasons. One of them being that at that time, Nigeria was lagging regarding food sufficiency. And several months going from that point, Nigerians and indeed critical stakeholders in the sector had an eye out, looking and watching to see what the developments will be like. Somewhere in between, there was even an order, or if you like, directive from the presidency to say, look, food reserves should be open to boost, or if you like, drive sufficiency of food in the country. But how much of difference for the better have those efforts made, especially at the point where there are people in the agri sector who